In Yasenovata town, Donetsk region, temporarily occupied by Russia, 29-year-old music teacher Vadim Frolov was tortured to death because of his refusal to fight against Ukraine. According to relatives, the man was kept in the torture chamber by the Russian military.
They just tortured him, they killed him and then came to his funeral. Ostrov publication quotes Volodymyr's relatives.
In February 2022, Frolov was illegally mobilized, taken straight from the music school. Despite the fact that the man is disabled in the third group, the command did not send him to Rostov-on-Don for treatment, but enrolled him in the assault brigade, writes the Astra Telegram channel. The death certificate states that the music teacher allegedly died on April the 15th during the assault on Krasnohorivka, Donetsk region.
The man, according to his relatives, did not sign the contract, did not take the oath, and was not given a military ID. As his relatives said in February, Volodymyr was held in a unit where he was tortured and forced to sign a contract. We are talking about the 5th Separate Motorized Rifle Brigade named after Alexander Zakharchenko, which was formed on the basis of the Oplot Battalion, from the Ostrov publication.
According to human rights activists, the process of illegal mobilization in the temporarily occupied territories began in 2014. During this time, 17 conscription campaigns were held in temporarily occupied Crimea alone. During the 10 years of occupation of the territories of Donetsk and Luhansk regions, as well as Crimea, about 500,000 Ukrainian citizens were mobilized.
It is a large group starting from the large-scale invasion on February 24, 2022. There has been an attempt to carry out mobilization process in the territories that were occupied, Donetsk, Kherson, Zaporizhia regions, and this actually happens through the distribution of Russian passports, coercion to Russian citizenship, and entails risk of mobilization and involvement in a military campaign in the war against Ukraine, sending to the front.
Ukrainian children in the temporarily occupied territories are also hurt by the occupation regime. Propaganda for the war against Ukraine is being actively introduced into schools and even kindergartens. Pupils are forced to join the paramilitary organization Youth Army and are taught how to fight in the war. Thus, in the temporarily occupied Crimea, they plan to teach children military professions, control of UAVs, also diving and maritime training is being introduced.
Russia has been pursuing a policy of militarization of Ukrainian children on the Crimean Peninsula since the beginning of its occupation. After the full-scale invasion, the process of re-education of young people only intensified. The militarized format of education has a detrimental effect on the consciousness of children. They are raised as soldiers and promoted a poisonous narrative that their native Ukraine is an enemy that must be fought with arms in hand. Dmitro Lubinets, Commission of Human Rights of the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine, on Telegram.
Not only do they not help those who have been deprived of housing because of them, but they also take away those housing that survived the Russian bombings. The invaders are taking away the housing of people who left the temporarily occupied territories. Ukrainian citizens are forced to return to the occupied territories in order to register their property according to Russian rules, and for this they need to obtain citizenship of Russia.
Strictly speaking, this is a policy of involving or enforcing Russian citizenship, including through forcing one to be near one's property, first of all, real estate. This policy took place in territories occupied before, and it is being implemented in the newly occupied territories. Now Russia is simply acting like some kind of a racketeer who seizes territory and disposes of the property as its own.
Due to the lack of qualified personnel in the occupied territories, Russian authorities appoint janitors as school directors. In the occupied parts of Kherson, Zaporizhia, Donetsk and Luhansk regions, there is a critical shortage of personnel for educational institutions. First of all, we are talking about high school teachers and representatives of the administration of educational institutions.
Teachers are in no hurry to come from Russia to the temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine, even for the promised cash payments and guaranteed housing. If there are such people, then they are students of second-rate Russian pedagogical universities. From a message from the Center of National Resistance.
Over almost 3 years of the full-scale invasion and 11 years of occupation of these territories, the economic situation in the occupied parts of Ukraine is only getting worse, experts say. The main reason is the lack of human resources because the population is decreasing, especially amid the illegal mobilization of Ukrainian citizens, the deportation of children, mass detentions and arrest of those who do not agree with the Kremlin's policies. Reported by Diana Kolesnik, Yulia Granovska, UATV News.